今、黄金のマスクがよみがえる。パーソナルワークステーション X68000。
Hey everybody, welcome back to Video So today we're going to continue the series on the Sharp X68000, more importantly my favorite games to play on the platform. And it wasn't just Geograph Seal that's going to be in 3D, I was able to find a second game that probably nobody knows exists outside of Sharp fan clubs, and that is going to be Star Cruiser. It was released in 1989 and it also uses polygons on the Sharp X68000 in a first-person shooter game. It's very unique, very different, and luckily it's one of the few games on the Sharp X68000 that have been translated into full English. Before we get too far involved, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down below as well. But at the start of this game, we have crashed into a basically space colony, and we now have to navigate around to find a new ship so we can exit. If you remember the Windows 95 or maybe even the Windows 3.1 first-person screensavers, you're going to know what this game is all about. Of course, this is way more interactive than a screensaver, but you can tell already it has all of those vibes, and it just feels wrong in all the right ways to see a game run on 3D on the Sharp X68000. The great part is this isn't just a tech demo, it's not just a curiosity because it's in 3D, it's actually a relatively fun game with a lot of depth and mechanics. You'll see here now that we have found our partnership here, you are going to get some story, and this game has a decent amount of it. And like I said, this being translated into English means you can 100% understand everything that is going on. You don't have to play a game in Japanese trying to assume what's happening. We have everything we need here, and that's always great when these experiences get translated into English for people outside of a Japanese speaking and reading audience. It just makes the game more fun. It's no longer just a curiosity visually when you don't know what's going on. You now have a full game here, and it is a really intriguing game. Now, as far as navigation is concerned, it's basically just on a D-pad you navigate around, and you would move around like you would in any other first-person shooter. Hit any of these enemies here, and you're going to go into basically a combat arena in which you need to move around and use this laser to be able to destroy whatever it is in front of you. What is that enemy? I have no idea. It's a circle with a couple triangles around it. Every time you find one of these icons here, that red ball, it's going to open up a gate that's blocking your path forward somewhere in the level. That's kind of how this gameplay hook works, at least in the first area. Destroy enemies, unlock gates, move on. Because we're trying to find a new ship in this level that we can escape with, and you're going to have to navigate pretty much every corridor to find it. Now, the frame rate on this, I'm not going to lie to you, isn't the greatest thing in the world. It's definitely in these single digits, but it works because you only enter combat when you actually touch an enemy, at least here. So honestly, the lack of that frame rate really isn't going to matter too much because you choose when you're actually going to have your combat. And I love all of the flat shaded polygons as well as those gradient colors on the ceiling, on the floor, and in every single fight arena. In the beginning of the game, the fights aren't going to be very difficult, but there's definitely going to be some dead ends where you just basically utilize some of your weaponry and some of your life to go nowhere. And after every fight, you do get the option to repair yourself as well. You can use money you find in the game to be able to improve yourself, to upgrade your stats, and most importantly to repair things, because every time you destroy an enemy, you get a financial reward. So sometimes, even though you can tell that enemy is in front of a dead end, you may want to engage in that combat to see what you're going to get as far as money is concerned, because collecting that money in this game is going to be as important as actually trying to get progress in. Money is going to be very important throughout the entire thing, so make sure you don't avoid too much combat or you can end up in a situation where you're a little bit short on resources. And as we find this new gate here, again, I just love this game. It's so unique and so strange, and it seems like something that shouldn't actually be able to work on the X68000. I don't remember seeing 3D back in the 80s unless you went to an arcade and played Hard Drivin', or maybe the original Sega Model 1 Star Wars arcade. So to see something like this in the 80s on a Japanese home computer must have been mind-blowing back then. And I will say, because it is so basic and so rudimentary in the graphics department, it actually holds up and ages really well. You throw that 2D overlay on top and it just has a really nice look. But leave me a comment down below and tell me if you're kind of into this appearance or if you don't like it. I would be curious. But the game has a great soundtrack as well, so go ahead and listen for 45 seconds. I'll be back to tell you more about the game. The audio transitions from track to track aren't that smooth, but I love how they sound, and taking a look at Geograph Seal again, I'm curious to hear what you guys think. What 3D do you prefer? Do you like Star Cruiser or do you like Geograph Seal? I think if I had to choose one, I'm most impressed by Geograph Seal, but if I had to pick one that I like the style of more, I would definitely pick Star Cruiser. But it's interesting that the two games on the Sharp X68000 both use 3D, always have the same style enemies. It's like you're basically playing the same game, even though these games are made by completely different development teams in completely different decades. Now, as we move back over to Star Cruiser, you'll see again, this game is just something that feels like it should be impossible. First-person shooters were not even really a thing back when this game was made. Sure, a few existed, but you never really saw that many of them. If you go back to your ship in the first level too, the first time you touch it, it's going to tell you that it's destroyed. If you touch it a second time, you're going to salvage $1,000 out of it. So definitely retread your steps sometimes, look at things more than once, because there are some light RPG elements within what is a first-person shooter. And I know it seems like this is more like you're flying a ship through these walls, you are just seemingly on foot. The ship that you came out of is much smaller than you, but I'm sure scale in 3D was not something that they 100% knew how to convey back when this game came out. And I just love everything about it. You get a little map and it does work well enough, but you do want to pay attention to where you've gone and you want to study what there is around you, because pretty much every wall is going to be a monotone color, but you will notice that different areas have different color walls, which is kind of the way you can keystone yourself around the map. But we have found a new ship here and we're able to move on throughout the game, and you get this really nice cutscene in 3D as well. There's probably only maybe like 20 polygons on screen at once, but you totally know you left this area in a ship. The actual limitations on the amount of polygons in this game actually go to serve to tell the story and visually indicate what's going on without having 100,000 polygons on screen at once, and those constraints sometimes make for some very good art. But now that we have a new ship, we can go into the space section of the game, which is definitely going to be completely different in a seemingly familiar way, and also a little bit more difficult. But now we have to go to a new galaxy satellite to be able to upgrade the ship, because the equipment on it at the start apparently is not the best. Now we have this full range of motion in 3D, basically like you are playing Star Wars Arcade. It's so different and so unique compared to what you just saw, it's going to completely throw you for a loop the first time you actually encounter it. But I will say this area definitely is much harder. You're going to see we have a radar, you can move in 360 degrees in pretty much any axis, and you need to find the ships that are hunting you down and stalking you and destroy them before they destroy you, and you'll even get these little blinking icons on the screen, which inconsequently are also the exact same thing that Geograph Seal used for the navigation system as well. It's like that game was definitely possibly inspired by this one. But even if I die here, which I'm going to because this is quite difficult, this game makes me happy to play, and it makes me extra happy to know that it is in full English. You can enjoy the story and really just sit down and sink your teeth into this game. It is unique, it is different, and for all those reasons and more, I absolutely love it. And you throw the rudimentary 3D with the flat shaded polygons on top of that, and I love it even more. But we have died. You're going to see we get a little cutscene and our ship has exploded. But I'm going to jump right back in and play more of this game after I'm done with this series. But I'll have another X68000 video next week, and I'll have all sorts of other videos throughout the week as well. But we are done here. Just leave me a comment down below and tell me if you knew this game existed, because I'm assuming most people didn't. Bye bye.